Just from the Copenhagen Climate Summit now. You'll be aware, France Van Cat have been reporting live day and night from the Copenhagen Climate Change Summit. Our environment correspondent, Eve Irvine, of course, at the centre of this. She's been watching blow by blow as, well, basically little progress seems to have been made. Now, obviously, Eve, Nicolas Sarkozy and President Lula da Silva of Brazil calling this meeting for later tonight, we're told, where it's hoped the two men can somehow drive forward towards some kind of agreement. What do we think is going to happen? What are we expecting to happen?
Well, we're hoping what will happen is that the heads of state will get together. All the heads of state are currently going in now to have a dinner with the royal Danish family, and afterwards we're having that after dinner late night talks. We're hoping that they'll all get together. They'll take the draft texts that are on the table and wiggle out the nitty gritty and basically make it into a paper that will be ready for signing before the end of this summit, which is in less than 24 hours.
Eve, let's take a listen now to what Nicolas Sarkozy has been saying.
Il y a un point qui nous rassemble tous.
We all have one thing in common.
C'est que l'échec de Copenhague.
If Copenhagen fails, it would be a catastrophe.
Les scientifiques.
Scientists have told us what we have to do and told us that we are the last generation that is able to act.
Nous ont dit que nous étions la dernière génération à pouvoir le faire. L'échec.
We cannot fail.
I understand that the talks have been difficult. I know that our team, along with many others, are working hard and around the clock to forge a deal. And we will continue doing all that we can do. But the time is at hand for all countries to reach for common ground and take an historic step that we can all be proud of.
Well, fine words, but once again, it adds up to just words. Let's go back to Eve Irvine. Politicians again talking on these issues, Eve. And obviously, while you're there on the floor where the event is happening, you picked up this story regarding this 3 degrees centigrade story, which has been causing great alarm. Tell us more on that.
Well, that was just, I tell you, an NGO leaked us a document from the Secretariat here, basically saying that if the emissions that were currently put on the table, or at least were put on the table this morning by all the countries gathered here, if that was what was in the final document, then according to the science, we would see a temperature rise of 3 degrees Celsius in the near future. Now, we hope that these emissions will change. I spoke to one European coming out of a meeting of the European Commission and Parliament this afternoon, and he told me that he expects all Annex 1 countries to up their proposals to 25% greenhouse gas reductions. He had also heard that the European Union was probably going to up theirs to the 30%. We have heard that in the past, and he said that as soon as they did that, it was now apparent that Russia would join force and do the same. However, he said that what he understood, and nobody expected the United States to budge much on from what they had proposed, which is 17% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2020 from 2005 levels, which when you compare it to the European Union, for example, that's just 4%. However, he said that the United States were expected to propose various organizations where they would work on forestry and all of that to try and compensate for this.
Okay, well, Barack Obama due to arrive tomorrow. The United States apparently making progress with China regarding the issue of Beijing's emissions curbs. Of course, China, one of the fastest growing economies on the planet, and of course one of the fastest growing polluting economies as well, which is obviously a great concern and to everybody to get China on board to make sure that works in a certain way. But Barack Obama not expected to be more precise about what the United States intends to do. Now, Eve, I know you have a guest there with you who can speak from the African perspective. Why don't you put some of the issues to your guest, and then we'll talk a little bit more later. Over to you.
Indeed, Mark. Let's profit from the presence of Dr. Noah Wekesa, the Minister for Forestry and Wildlife in Kenya. Dr. Wekesa, thank you so much for joining us. Now, tell me, we had a proposal from the Ethiopian Prime Minister, Meles Zenawi, who represents the African Union here at this summit. He says that Africa, all the countries, are united. Is this the case?
Yes. We are united. We've been having discussions for close to a year now, and since he's our spokesman, we are agreeable on the way forward.
Now, he proposed that $100 billion a year by 2020 would be acceptable to African nations. This we've heard echoed by Hillary Clinton today. However, I heard from the head of the G77 that he's not very happy about this. It's not enough.
Actually, as far as money is concerned, I don't think that we agree with him, because $100 million doesn't sound to be very much.
It's 100 billion, I believe. Huh?
100 billion doesn't seem to be much money for the rest of developing countries, bearing in mind that there are 77 countries within the G77. In our case alone, in Kenya, for example, we have a project for green energy, where we want to develop 7,000 megawatts, and that alone is close to 5.5 billion US dollars. So that looks smaller. But having said that, I think that we are not here just for money, but we are here to join the rest of the world to do something about climate change.
So tell me then, could we get bogged down in the issue of money? Is this a major stumbling block, or despite this, can we move past it, if you like, and find an agreement by roughly this time tomorrow?
A legal agreement is expected. All of us must succeed here. It's not a question of less developed countries, whether we do what they want. It's not an issue of the developed countries to stretch their hand towards us. It's an issue of saving the planet. It's an issue where less developed countries join the developed countries to address the issue of climate change, because we share the air, we share the water through our seas, we share all the natural resources. So it's not an issue of developed countries alone. It's an issue where all of us must come together to be winners.
Okay, now we've seen the African Union and the European Union kind of form some compromises or joint positions. But imagine for a moment that it's not me you have in front of you, but the US President Barack Obama. What would you ask him to do?
Barack Obama is a winner. He won the elections in America. Recently, he won the Nobel Prize for Peace. Barack Obama should make a difference at this conference. This conference can be historic in the sense that if Barack Obama knows that humankind will be better off by signing a legal agreement, he would come out of Copenhagen a winner. We from Kenya would come from here winners. The British would be winners. Everybody would be a winner. I think this is the moment. This is the moment when we can see winners. And I see that we will win tomorrow.
I hope you're right, Dr. Wekesa. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
well,
you.
there you've heard it, Mark. We're expecting US President Barack Obama to come here and win at this summit here in Copenhagen.
Eve, thank you very much. You're winning yourself. Fantastic work there. Dr. Noah Wekesa there saying he wants Obama to come and prove that he's a winner. Well, let's hope that there's some kind of progress then made. We'll bring you all developments from the meeting later tonight, of course, called by Nicolas Sarkozy and his Brazilian counterpart, Lula da Silva, to try to bring forward some kind of positive decision from the Copenhagen Climate Change Summit. And our team there, of course, reporting blow by blow on everything that develops. Now, of course, stay with us. Coming up, we've got a world in motion. Carlo Esterheide is here. A cocktail and a breathalyzer, please, is what she'll be saying. French Minister of the Interior wants to install breathalyzers in nightclubs and bars. It's all self-explanatory, isn't it? Stay with us.
Of course, you already know about HDTV. Well, as of tomorrow, you'll be able to watch television in 3D and live the emotion of your favorite programs even more intensely. Tomorrow is already here. Eutelsat has already launched a 3D channel on its Eurobed 9A satellite, and BSkyB is to launch their 3D channel in 2010.
I think we can talk about 3D being a genuine revolution. These moments don't come along very, very often, but for me, it's arguably the biggest step change since black and white turned into colour.
In France, TF1 is also getting ready.
Football in 3D will be one of the first programmes, and we'll be experimenting with it during the Football World Cup in 2010.
So how does 3D actually work? An event is filmed by a stereoscopic camera. The signal is encoded in 3D before being uplinked to a Eutelsat satellite. The image is delivered to your home via a 3D decoder. But does it work? After all, there have been many attempts at 3D in the past.
True, but the technical development just wasn't there then. Today, new technology and HD really make 3D TV possible. Our expertise covers the entire 3D production chain.
And the public response is enthusiastic.
3D is great. 3D is fantastic. It is really, it look like real.
Oh yeah, it's a completely different viewing experience. It adds so much more.
3D is great. It just adds to the experience.
Eutelsat, enhancing your broadcast experience.